It was a dark and stormy night when we crossed the Pacific Ocean from Alaska to Japan. Well, no, wait, we were on a cruise ship in the lap of luxury. But that is where we met Gisela and Dieter from Canada at a Bible study while on board the ship. They began to share with us their love affair with Uganda, and they invited us to shadow them on their next trip. So a year and a half later, we found ourselves helping to fill a truck with necessary supplies provided by their local Rotary Club for orphanages run by the missionaries of the poor. Soon discovered why they were compelled to come back year after year. While in Uganda, we were able to connect with dear friends of ours, Executive Director Derek Johnson and his wife Julie, a physical therapist at Cure Hospital in Mbali. When we were at Bethlehem Home, I asked Father Henry why they didn't have solar power on that big red roof, and he replied that their first responsibility was to feed the disabled orphans that they served. I soon learned that there was a plan in motion to light up Bethlehem Home by Solar Light for Africa, but they were lacking the necessary $20,000 to finish the project. After prompting and much prayer, I partnered with Solar Light for Africa, and I began to share the need wherever I went, to church groups, ladies groups, and then I asked my friends and family to join me in making a difference and working with me to help celebrate my 60th birthday. It was a birthday I'll never forget. Well, thanks to over 150 friends, families, and groups, the project was completely funded in time for Christmas. I shared the need in homes, at Rotary clubs, and we even went to see Gisela and Dieter in Kelowna, Canada, and shared with their club. That's when she told me about her new project, Days for Girls International. Days for Girls is an international organization that provides reusable feminine hygiene products for girls all over the world. By providing kits in third world countries, it allows girls to stay in school when they might otherwise drop out. When I heard about the project and shared it with Betty, she gladly opened her home to over 20 women who have cut and sewn and serged and cut and sewn and serged. We're having so much fun, we've decided to keep the project going, and we'll be meeting on the second Saturday of every month, and we'd love to have you join us. We were able to complete 125 kits to take with us to Uganda. That filled 3 of our 10 suitcases. Some were filled with yarn and drugs for Cure Hospital. And there we are with our 10 bags ready to take off. Dixie, a friend from Cambria, Sue Heading and myself headed to Africa by way of Los Angeles. And then we flew to Chicago, and from Chicago to Brussels, and from Brussels to Entebbe. One of the happiest sights was to see all of our luggage arrived safely. We woke up in Uganda and met our Solar Light for Africa team, made of 6 women from the U.S., 4 Ugandan workers, 3 drivers, and 2 guards. We worshipped at Covenant Nations Church, and the first new experience was going through a metal detector just to get to church. We soon drove to Jinja in a vehicle provided by the government for our use, with protection, and the familiar sights came back to me. The red dirt, people everywhere, the hazy smoke-filled air, the piles of charcoal, and the balancing acts on motorcycles and bikes that are riding on the left-hand side of the road, carrying anything you can imagine. And then, of course, there's the public bathroom stops on our way. Our stuffed up noses and watery eyes really appreciated our tents on the Nile River, where we were serenaded by frogs and had monkeys jumping on our roof and playing in the trees. We enjoyed a very nice sunset, and Flat Stewart came along, was with us for most of our trip. And that evening we had a whole fried tilapia for dinner. It was really delicious. The next morning, Frederick, our contractor, was ready to go. and off we went to Kupendwa Ministries, which is a home for unwed mothers. We had a chance to do our first teaching for Days for Girls. So Sue, Dixie, and I were able to share with the girls just the facts of how their body works and how they would enjoy using these products and the kits that we brought. Each of the girls received a kit and were so grateful. Next, we were off to Injiru Health Center. There we just finished a few items that were left from the original installation of the Ugandan team. And Sue and I were able to then speak with the midwives at the delivery room, where we soon discovered that if you came in the dark in the middle of the night and didn't bring enough kerosene, you would be having a delivery in the dark. We then were able to give to the brand new mama her 7th child, whom she decided to name Favor. We gave her a kit, and we gave many kits there to the midwives, who were so pleased to receive them. We got in on a community celebration where the mayor came to thank everyone. A pastor came and gave a prayer and thanks, and everyone was so happy to know that now there was light. And back that evening, we took a little walk to the Nile River camp, where we watched monkeys on our way and then enjoyed a beautiful sunset and a really nice barbecue. And we came across these kind of wild creatures. They're in the jungle, but no one will tell who they were. We enjoyed a campfire and told stories into the night, but we still got a good night's sleep, so the next morning we could go to Soft Power Education, which wasn't far away, a completely empty building where by the end of the day we would have solar light. Some people had extra help, like Sue, and Dixie helped Richard, and I did some sorting. And then it was good that there were some young guys to climb a ladder with solar panels. And like I say, by the end of the day, there was light, and it was sure exciting to see. Well, that afternoon, one of the gals brought pillowcase dresses, and we got to go and give pillowcase dresses and some beautiful bracelets that my friend Danny made. Just right across the fence, and met these children, and they were so appreciative. The next day from Jinja, we drove a very dusty road to Karuma with a bit of excitement on the way. There's fires everywhere. And we came to Restoration Gateway, which is an orphanage. And we stayed in mission homes in bunk beds with our mosquito nets. And the job was to put in solar lighting for this school and one of the mission homes. Sue and I even learned how to strip wires. Now, Richard was really the guy in the eaves. That's how it should stay. And Sue and I were able to do teaching the next day to several of the girls there at the mission home. And each of the girls left with a beautiful Days for Girls kit. And right afterwards, 2 of the girls came and wrote us letters and made me cry and wanted us to know how much they really appreciated all of the ladies that went together to make this happen for them. They make paper bead bracelets and necklaces, and they were showing me which ones they made. And then we had lunch at one of the homes where there's a mama and 8 orphans in each home. This is them showing the new light in their solar school, and this is in the new missionary home. Job completed, we took off for Chobe, where the safari was to take place. And on our way into Chobe, we were greeted by some beautiful monkeys and some baboons. And after a hard week, we were ready to relax and enjoy ourselves. Got there pretty late, but we really did have some super posh place to stay, and we really enjoyed ourselves for that evening. Had a beautiful sunset again and a lovely dinner, and a good night's sleep so that we could get up in the morning really early to enjoy a safari. And there we are, getting ready to take our safari. There's the sunrise, which my husband will tell you I rarely see. These are some guinea fowl and a kobe. We saw several baboons and giraffes aplenty. And then the elephant. There is something to see these creatures in the wild, I'll have to say. We saw some beautiful birds. It's a kingfisher, I believe. And a warthog. Monkeys. And lots of hippopotamus. Well, after a really refreshing swim in the pool, I was really the only one who was ready to take about a 6-hour drive. I was refreshed and ready to go on this just really great road on our way back to Entebbe. And there was exciting things on the way, which is a everyday scene, fires, but this overturned truck was a little bit of a concern, and by the time we got to the city in the dark, escorted by the lead police car, it was a little bit exciting. Next morning, off we went again, but you could buy whatever supplies you need, like toilet paper, on your way to Bethlehem Home. I was so excited to get to Bethlehem Home, and the first person who greeted me was Peter. Peter greeted me last year, so it was just so special. And then there was Philip and all the boys who were there to greet us. And I kind of never stopped crying. And then I looked and saw the 20 solar panels. It was just a dream come true. So some of the kids gathered on the grass, and Father Henry went up and climbed around on the roof, and he sprinkled holy water on those solar panels. It was quite the scene, and it was like a celebration I've never had, and couldn't stop crying. It was just such a treat. Father Henry, myself, and Charlene, the head of Solar Light, and the contractor Frederick, who made it all happen there, is just a gem. He couldn't wait to show us the 20 batteries that work the system. And then they put up this little plaque, sort of paper, if you will. Was just really sweet to see. The boys had a really nice program for us, and some of the boys were a little more curious than others. There were 2 guys that sang, and the song that you hear, they wrote. Now this is Brian. Brian was telling us he couldn't wait to do his homework in the light because he wanted to be a doctor when he grew up. And because there's light now at night, he can study so that one day he can become a doctor. And he was thanking us for that. And so I thank you, all of you that had a part in this. It was such an amazing experience. I never knew if I'd really get back to see it completed. And I think that's why I just couldn't stop crying. It was so touching. We had quite the celebration with cake and soda, which they never have. And so we cut the cake, and we made sure that everyone had soda and cake. And all the boys sat and waited until each and every one of those kids was served before any one of them began to eat. They really loved having the soda. And again, it was just a dream come true. This little guy with no arms has the best penmanship in the world. There I stood in the corner where I was a year ago, saying, well, why not? Maybe we could do $20,000. And look what y'all did. It happened. Look what the Lord did through all of you. There were some people who weren't too surprised. Well, the girls celebrated that night, those California girls, and the next morning we went to the monastery and had church there with them and celebrated. We made a new lane of traffic for our last meal together, and I learned what happens when your heart is so full of joy it starts to leak. We said goodbye and off we were to Mbali to see my friends that I had met the year prior. We went to Cure Hospital where my friends Derek and Julie are, and we saw some of the mamas and the babies who've had surgery, brain surgery for their babies with hydrocephalus. Sue and I got to scrub in for a surgery, and we did a little studying to make sure we were ready for brain surgery. But there we are with a gentleman who has done 4,000 of these surgeries. And here's the scrub nurse, and we had an amazing time. Morabay Drug and Gift brought all these medications for Cure Hospital. And many of you were part of this bag of yarn that I brought to Immaculate. I worked on a scrapbook this last year of the beginnings of Cure Hospital and was expecting to bring it back with me if I ever came, and so it was a thrill to give it to her. She taught us all how to make paper beads, and then that evening we got to spend time with Derek and Julie and Nathan, and Sue got to play Grandma. And this is little baby Nathan. What a doll. That night we went through all the yarn, and we were able to present to Olivia yarn and needles that many of you also donated. She's beginning a new ministry to meet the needs of the people where she lives, and this will help her generate income. These are friends from last year as well, and she made hats and purses for all of us out of banana leaves, and it was such a generous gift. We left Olivia with a reminder of where we're from, and then that afternoon we drove up to CP Falls, where last year I met Martin. And I promised Martin if I ever came back I would bring his family stories written in English. And this is his mama who made us coffee. We enjoyed coffee together as I presented him a book of several stories that he had told us the year prior, written out in English. I'm telling you, swims never felt so good as they do in Uganda. After a dip in the pool, we went over to Mackay and Doreen's home. Mackay is the taxi driver for Cure Hospital, and we met him last year. They had us to their home for a typical Ugandan meal, and we exchanged gifts and had such a great time with their sweet kids, Maya and Martha. Like they say, all good things must come to an end, but it was sure hard to say goodbye. On our way back to Entebbe, we went to the source of the Nile, the world's longest river, and we enjoyed a beautiful boat ride with our captain, Shaban, where he showed us, pointed out lots of wildlife, and it was just delightful. We had to say goodbye to these precious people. Mackay got us safely to the airport, and the next thing we knew, we were headed back home from Entebbe to Brussels. But we stopped just long enough to get some New House chocolate, and then from Brussels to Newark, where we had customs, and Newark to LA, where we were greeted by the rain. It was wonderful. And we decided that the swollen feet, the malaria drugs, and the mosquito bites were all worth it. So much happened in 2 short weeks. It was just a wonderful, blessed adventure. Thanks for allowing us to share it with you.